Good morning and welcome to the Maryland Retired School Personnel Association webinar today. Today we're going to be talking about protecting your nest egg. My name is John Green and Phyllis Cherry will introduce me a little bit more in a moment. We're joined today by Wanda Twiggs, your Executive Director, and Phyllis Cherry, who is in charge of the Benefits Committee for MRSPA, and Garrett Mowry, who is also with Association Member Benefits Advisors. Just a couple of quick housekeeping details before I turn it over to Wanda. All participants are in a listen-only mode. So unlike regular Zoom where it's a Brady Bunch look, all participants are off camera and muted. But if you have questions, feel free to put those into the Q&A feature. And if it's something that is particular to your specific situation, we'll probably answer that directly back to you online. If it's something that the whole group will benefit from, we'll stop and answer those questions along the way. We'll also have an opportunity to answer questions after the conversation as well, can open up microphones, things like that. In addition, you'll notice down there at the bottom, there's a QR code. If you'll have your smartphone handy, we'll show you how to use that QR code, how to get more information on some of the things we've talked about today. We are recording this session and we'll make it available on the MRSPA website. And that way you can reference it in the future, share it with a son or a daughter, spouse, something like that, and just go back and look over it as well. So grab a pen and paper for today. And I want to turn it over to your Executive Director, Wanda Twigg. Good morning, Wanda. How are you today?
Good morning, John. Good morning, Phyllis and Garrett, and good morning, everyone out there in Cyberland. Welcome to our first Consumer Education Committee webinar. We're glad that you're all here, and we hope that you take away some important and valuable information this morning. Just wanted to remind everyone, if you're not a person who regularly attends your local association meetings, of our mission. Our mission, of course, as Maryland Retired School Personnel Association, is to protect your defined benefit pension as it was well earned by all of you with your years of service to the children of Maryland. And of course, your local associations work to protect your health benefits and other benefits that you earned through your school system in your retirement. So that is our primary goal. Also, of course, we do things like this. We work to educate our members and bring them pertinent and relevant information related to your retirement and keeping you safe, whether that's here in Maryland or in another state across the country. Also, just want to remind everyone who lives in Maryland that our General Assembly session starts next month, and our legislative workshop will be held on the last day of January. Your local presidents would have received information about that earlier this week. So if any of you have any interest in attending that, you can attend in person and or on Zoom. And of course, if you prefer to attend on Zoom, you don't even have to get out of your PJs if you want to attend. And we also have our MRSPA Foundation scholarship applications will open on January the 3rd for active school employees. And we will be giving away 3 $2,000 scholarships for folks working in the schools. Raffle ticket sales to promote our scholarships and mini grants are taking place right now and are in full effect until March the 20th. If you are looking for raffle ticket forms, those are on our website or in the newsletter. Or certainly you can call the office and we can hook you up with that form through your email. And then also the scholarships will be awarded at our annual business meeting on May the 9th. And as always, we have, like all volunteer organizations, we have many openings on our standing committees. If any of you would have a couple of hours that you could devote. And again, many of our committee meetings, most of our meetings are on Zoom nowadays. So once again, you don't have to drive to Odenton to participate in a state committee. We can get you involved in a much faster manner on Zoom. So again, I thank John and Phyllis and Garrett for allowing us to be here today and for presenting this important information to us. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Wanda. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Phyllis?
Good morning. I would like to welcome you to the Zoom meeting. I am Phyllis Cherry, Chairperson of the Consumer Education Committee. We are charged with the task of providing for you any information that we feel is relevant to your well-being, your financial status, your health status. I hope you're reading the monthly Consumer Connection, which has a wealth of information. If there are topics you would like us to cover, please let us know. And again, as Wanda said, attending meetings, even with Zoom in your bedroom slippers, is a great way to support the organization. So with that, let me introduce Mr. John Green, who through the magic of Zoom is coming to us from Texas. I was very pleased when I learned that his wife is an elementary school teacher. So my thought was, he knows us and knows our needs. So thank you, John, for coming and joining us here in Maryland.
Thank you very much, Phyllis. Appreciate that. And as Phyllis mentioned, my wife is an elementary school teacher. My daughter there in the middle picture, she wrapped up her last final today and starts her student teaching in the spring. So I've got teachers all in the household. My daughter-in-law is a biology teacher, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, principal. So I'm the black sheep of the family, so to speak. But I have spent the better part of my 30-year career in classrooms helping active educators understand what their retirement years are like. So I appreciate being here with you today and want to talk a little bit about, first about the association. Just a quick reminder, and Wanda touched on this, and Phyllis did too. You worked so long to take care of our kids, and you worked hard, and in exchange, you now have a pension. It's something that you can't outlive. You've earned benefits, things like that, as part of your work career. And MRSPA is there to make sure that you continue to receive that and continue to receive the most out of what you've worked for all of your career, and then connecting you back to members, especially coming out of COVID, getting back together, whether it's in person, on Zoom, hybrid, whatever it is. That's so important. And then the education, the benefits, the other stuff that comes along with your membership, and Phyllis mentioned this, that's what your association does on your behalf. So there's so many facets to how MRSPA works on behalf of retirees. And I would highly encourage you, those of you on the call, I guarantee you know someone that you taught with who is not a member. And please, please, please encourage them to become a member of the association and not only benefit from educational things like this, but the advocacy, the connection, and all the other the aspects of association membership that are important. One of those aspects of association membership that's a free benefit for you is the Passport program. This is free for all MRSPA members. There's nothing that you have to do except for sign up and register. And it's dining, shopping, travel, simple home things, home goods, but it's also refinancing, car purchases, big time savings all across the board. The benefit's free. Members have saved right now, we measured through the end of November, about $111,000. Helps that pension check stretch a little bit further. So I encourage you to take advantage of this free membership offer that you have out there as well. If you're not familiar with AMBA or AMBA or Association Member Benefits Advisors, our formal name, we've been around for 40 years. We were founded in Austin, Texas, but we work with associations just like MRSPA, retired educators, active and retired state employees, firefighters, police officers, nurses, active educator groups in some situations, that basically public servants who have worked so hard to take care of us as citizens. And we help provide membership benefits as well as consulting services, things like that. Joe Madelon is our leader up there in the Northeast, along with Garrett Mowry, and they help connect the association back to their members. And so you may see Joe out at some of the local meetings or in some of your conferences and things like that as well. And there's some advantage of having MRSPA and AMBA together. They can help fill some gaps in some of your benefits, maybe when you left the school that you didn't keep with you, that aren't covered as part of your medical plans, things of that nature. They are completely portable benefits, meaning that if you decide to come down to Florida or Texas for the winter, you don't have to worry about networks, anything like that. If you leave the state, not a problem at all. And the nice thing about these benefits, you can extend them to your adult children or family members who aren't eligible for your state or district benefits. And because we have so many young teachers that have retired early and then taken on a second career, second job, if you're still responsible for a family member, having proper benefits on a family member could prevent you from having to take off from your second career as well. You can check out all of your benefits that you're eligible for, discounts, the whole 9 yards, out at MRSPA.org, and would encourage you to go take a look at that sometime after our webinar just to see what's available to you. But today we're talking about this concept of protecting your nest egg. We're going to define that. We're going to walk you through a few things, but I'm going to show you 5 from an article that I read several years ago, 5 key threats to your nest egg. But to help Garrett and I kind of figure out who our audience is today, who's on the call, I'm going to launch a quick poll. And I want you to kind of share with us, this is totally anonymous, what your biggest fear is when it comes to your nest egg savings. And I'm not talking about your pension, because your pension is going to be there thanks to MRSPA and their advocacy work. What's your biggest concern when it comes to your nest egg? What's your biggest fear? So if you'll answer that question real quick, again, it's anonymous. Feel free to click on the poll. We've got folks that are jumping in right now, and then we'll share those results. This will help us kind of guide our conversation today as we walk through those 5 biggest threats to your nest egg and how that applies. So about half of us have responded so far. So we'll keep on rolling through here and give everybody a chance to activate their brain, let us know what's going on out there, and then we can hopefully direct our conversation around some of these particular issues for you there. So, all right, we'll give it just a couple more seconds here. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm going to end this poll and share the results here. This is an interesting group. Gyrating stock market, half of you, that's your biggest concern. And I'm kind of with you. I open up my phone every day and I'll tab over to the stock market. If it's red, I just close it. I don't even look at, the numbers anymore, unfortunately. But inflation is impacting some of you, and concerned about that. And then outliving your savings, which is a very valid reason out there. You have a tremendous medical plan. That's one thing that Wanda has told me, informed me, and I tell you, it's one that those of us in the South kind of envy. But I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So I appreciate you sharing your thoughts for us, and we'll kind of roll on through here and kind of use those your concerns and address some of those things as we roll through here. So, when you talk about retirement, there are 3 main components of stable retirement. One is your pension. And again, a good, strong pension plan that's well funded, that provides for you. If you do it properly, you're never going to run out of money. It's going to be there as long as you live. Social Security is another good component in there. The good news, bad news, I guess I should say it is there. The Social Security increase was announced here not too long ago. So we've got another, pretty sizable increase coming next year. But that's usually because it's indexed to inflation. So there is an impact there, positive and negative. Medicare's dropping just a little bit. So like I said, there's some positives in there, but Social Security is another stable leg, or that 3-legged stool, so to speak. And then you've got your other savings, those things that you saved outside of your school time, whether it be in some type of 403B plan, an IRA, or you had some inheritance, whatever it is, or a spouse's 401k plan, IRA, something like that. Those are really your 3 components of a stable retirement income. And when one of those legs gets a little wobbly, the whole stool is a little unstable. And so we're going to talk about that as we kind of roll through here. But before we do talk about it, let's kind of level set. Let's make sure that we understand what is a retirement nest egg and what isn't a retirement nest egg. Your pension plan is not a nest egg. Social Security, whether it's yourselves, your spouses, whatever, that's not part of your nest egg, nor is what we call mattress money, the emergency fund money, that if something has to happen in terms of a medical issue, or the heater goes out, or a car repair, something like that, those things, that's not your nest egg, nor is a structured settlement if you've been in an insurance claim or something like that. That's not your nest egg. What we're talking about today in terms of your nest egg is those things that you saved up outside of your pension and Social Security, your 403Bs, 401k plans, IRAs, cash balance pension plans, things like that. Then just things as simple as CDs and savings, things like that, inheritances, things of that nature. That's what I'm talking about, that 3rd leg, so to speak, of your retirement stool. That's your retirement nest egg. And we're going to take our conversation today from an article that I read several years ago in the USA Today newspaper about the 5 major threats to your retirement. And they didn't rank them in any order or anything like that, but those 5 major threats are taking care of elderly parents. Now, whether that's you as the elderly parent or you're still responsible for your parents, the death of a spouse without life insurance, boomerang children, a medical crisis, and then overexposure to the stock market as we age. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to walk through each one of these, kind of show you some of the stats behind it, get you a good level set, and then give you some potential solutions. We're not going to dive real deep in those solutions. We'll talk just a little bit on the surface level, but kind of be able to give you some potential solutions and then maybe show you how that you can resolve those as well yourself. So if you've got questions, feel free to drop it into Q&A. We roll pretty rapidly through these conversations, but I want to make sure that we address something that's on your mind here. Number one, and again, in no particular order, threats to your nest egg is taking care of elderly parents. Now, most of the time on our calls, the individuals that we're speaking to are the parents, the oldest living people in their household. Sometimes we do meet people that say, I've got parents that are in their 90s or in their 80s. In my case, my mother is in her early 80s. My father passed away after 2 years in a nursing home from dementia back a couple of years ago, and we were responsible for taking care of him. Fortunately, we were blessed that he had some form of a long-term care plan. Unfortunately, on the flip side is that 73% of all care is provided in the home by an informal caregiver who receives no compensation. And so think about this picture in your mind. You're a retired educator, and for whatever reason, whether it be a fall, whether it be just general aging and arthritis, dementia, Alzheimer's, something like that, 73%, so almost 3 out of 4, are responsible or being taken care of at home because they don't have a long-term care plan. And the person that comes in to provide that care is usually a family member who doesn't receive compensation. Well, that family member is having to leave their job, possibly, to provide that care, which not only stunts their income for their family that they're providing now, but if they are an educator, and I work with Garrett and I work with many retired educators or work with people that had to retire early from the education career, and that stunted their pension, their ability to, meet their numbers and things like that to get their full pension there. And this impacts women far more than men. It impacts women about $300,000 plus over their earning career because they're having to stop and take care of a loved one. And not only does it impact them financially, the care of a loved one can really put a strain on relationships. We see many support groups in churches around care providers because it can burn you out taking care of a loved one. And so not only can this scramble your nest egg financially because it puts an impact on your savings, it puts an impact on your earning potential right at the time that you may need to earn this income more to provide for your children, but it also can put a strain on relationships and impact relationships through several generations. There are some solutions that are out there. Long-term care plans are not as common as they used to be. If you have a long-term care plan, I would highly encourage you to review that. We were blessed that my father took one out in his early 60s, and he had a minor stroke not too long after that. Totally healthy individual, had a minor stroke, and that would have precluded him from qualifying. But when he needed it, the plan paid out over $6,000 a month for a semi-private room, and he was well taken care of for 2 years because he had that plan. There are some other plans that provide for care just at home or for a shorter period of time, up to a year, as a result of a fall, something like that. And then we see a lot of individuals will do kind of a hybrid. They will have some sort of a planned insurance program that will pay out, but will also supplement with their personal assets or something that they need to have there. So there are some solutions. The important thing is to take care of it now. My brother and I took care of my mother through a particular plan that provided for her care in her home for a year. And then that would allow us to kind of get her affairs in order if something happened. Fortunately, she's very healthy, not a problem at all right now, but we took care of it in that regard. So that's one of the ways that you can avoid that big nest egg threat of having to take care of elderly parents or you being the person that's being taken care of. The second biggest threat to your nest egg is a spouse dying without life insurance. More than 2 in 5 Americans would feel a pinch within 6 months of a spouse passing away without life insurance. Having life insurance can prevent someone from having to dip into that retirement savings or any type of other savings nest egg to pay for housing, medical expenses, college, things like that, because it provides this tax-free income that's there for you. Now, some of you may have taken a life insurance policy, a small amount when you left the school. It may have lapsed. It may come with part of your state benefits, whatever it is there. But you need to look at, is that enough? Or does your spouse have the type of life insurance that you need? There are some endorsed options that the association has for you, some final expense whole life, some guaranteed issue life, things that can cover final expenses, but just give you a little bit of income for a few months or a couple of years to get your feet back on the ground in that situation. And then we find in some states, especially in Texas, I think it's in Massachusetts as well, a couple of other places like that, where you have challenges with the Social Security on a spouse for active or for retired educators. And so we see a lot of educators will buy a life insurance policy to replace the Social Security on a deceased spouse because they're not going to get it as part of their benefit package as well. I don't think that's an issue in Maryland, but it is in other states. And so you want to consider where you get your pension from, where you may have worked in the past. So that's another way that you can solve that fear of having your nest egg wrecked. The third one, and a lot of people get surprised about this, is a medical crisis. We think I've got Medicare, I've got a great state plan, or my spouse has a great retirement medical plan. Most medical plans are very good at covering the initial treatment. What we find is that most medical bills are the biggest cause of bankruptcy, even for people who have a very good medical plan, including Medicare. Because what we find for your major issues, heart attack, stroke, cancer, those type of things, usually 60% of the cost of the care after the treatment is not covered by any type of medical insurance. This is because even within Medicare, even within some state plans, you start to see copays, you start to see some more deductibles. Sometimes you see what's called balance billing or surprise billing. And I've noticed this with my mother's situation. Again, she doesn't have a lot of health issues at all, but when she goes in with her plan, she has a zero copay. But if she has some type of scan or some type of test, sometimes that test can be read by an out-of-network doctor. And all of a sudden, a surprise bill pops up in that situation. So some of those things can be a surprise there. But where we really see this is with cancer and stroke care. Because with cancer, so much of the treatment these days is done in cancer centers, for lack of a better term. And I live in Houston. I meet people all over the country flying to MD Anderson, to the cancer centers down in our medical center. I see people going up to the Mayo Clinic, different places. When Garrett and I travel, we meet people all the time where we're saying they're traveling to get care. The travel costs, the hotels, the time off for somebody to travel with you, none of that is covered by your medical plans. And so a medical crisis can not only wreck you from that standpoint, and then if you have any earnings that you're still doing, it can hinder your earning potential as well out there. So there are some options that are available to kind of solve this. There are certain cancer, heart attack, and stroke plans that would provide you with just a lump sum of tax-free money that you can use however you want to for travel, for comfort items. One thing that surprised me a lot about Medicare and some of the state plans that I've seen is they will take care of the treatment, but if you want things like a private room, or if you want things such as anti-nausea medication, or a wig, or a prosthetics, or some durable medical equipment, oftentimes they don't pay for that. And so there's a cost that comes along with those things that we don't think about. So that's what those cancer, heart attack, and stroke plans can do. They can provide you with a lump sum that you can decide how you want to use this money. Similarly, with the recovery care, you have a heart attack, you need somebody that comes out and maybe does some light housekeeping, some meal prep, maybe transferring you from the bed to the shower, things like that. None of those things are covered by most medical plans. this would provide cash to provide that for you as well. And then finally, the MASA membership. The MASA membership is ground and air ambulance anywhere in Maryland, anywhere in the United States, anywhere in the world. And if you have some sort of an accident or need to be transported to the hospital via an emergency vehicle, MASA pays for that 100%. Most air providers, life flight, things like that, and ground ambulance providers do not participate in any of the networks. So they may charge you a rate, and because they're not in a network, the network will pay 20% of that, or they'll pay 50% of that, and you're responsible for the rest of it. So a MASA membership can cover all of that completely for you, so you don't have anything to worry out of your pocket, especially if you're starting to travel back after COVID as well. It can get you back from a foreign country back into the United States and pay for those expenses as well. Now, number 4 scares me because I've got 3 children in their 20s and they're all out on their own. And so I don't know what happens if they move back in, because my wife and I are just a few years from retirement, and over half of boomer households who have no children living back with them, they're fully retired. I mean, they're enjoying life and loving that. But if they've had kids move back in with them, only 21% of them are fully retired. I really don't have much of an answer for this one. So if you've got an answer on how you want to handle a boomer child to move back in, and the expenses that come along with that can change your retirement, that type of thing. As a result of COVID, we saw a lot of this happening. More and more adult children are moving back in with their parents. That can really mess up your nest egg and change some of your expenses that you were planning. So I really only came up with 2 things. One is lock the door. Just don't let them come back. Or I had an individual, a retired educator in Oklahoma. I was doing this presentation in Oklahoma, and she sent me a note that says, here is the checklist that I have given to all of my children, that if they want to come back and move back in with me, they have to do this, this, and this. And I thought it was pretty genius the way that she planned it that way. She almost treats it as garlic, with a vampire, that here's the list, don't come back kind of thing. So boomerang kids can really mess up a nest egg when you come back as well, if there's something happens that way as well. And number 5 is overexposure to the stock market. Over half of you on this call today were concerned about the gyrations of the stock market, green all one week and then totally red the next week, that kind of stuff like that. It's one thing to have money in the stock market, and you've got many years to hopefully ride it out and catch up if when it drops like it's dropped. But taking a hit right whenever you're ready to retire, you may not be able to afford or have the time to make it up, and can be a real challenge there. I'm sure there's not anybody on this call that doesn't remember 2007, 2008, 2009. If you remember that time, we lost, just within a period of a few months, about 50% of our retirement value if you had it in an IRA or in the stock market. And for people who retired right at that point, if you were planning on drawing income off of that right away, you just saw half of what you'd saved up all your career for go away. Now, fortunately, we grew that back, but do you have the time? Do you have a plan to protect your money as you age? That's so vitally important, but it's hard just to throw it over into the bank because you're getting pennies every month in interest. So there's really not a lot of options out there. And so people will say, well, I'll just wait, and I can wait it out. I can make it up. Let me show you a couple of examples of where that can and cannot work there. And I tell you, if I knew what was going to happen, you wouldn't see me or Garrett on this call. We'd have 2 big boats down in the Caribbean, and we'd be side by side fishing every day, but we don't know what's going to happen. And so if you look over here, this is the S&P 500, which takes the biggest 500 companies that are publicly traded in the nation and tracks this back to the 20s. So if you look right here, it was a little over 500 back in 1928. And we all know what happened in 1929. It bottomed out here. Well, in 1929, it bottoms out. And if you roll back across here, you have to go all the way to the 60s, 30 plus years to get back to even in the stock market if you had money in a retirement plan back in the 20s. All right, rolls along really good, coming in here through the 50s and 60s. Then you come about right in here, And this is the 60s, and it drops out across the 70s and 80s, and it takes a long time to get back even again, another 20 plus years. So not knowing what we have today, how long it's going to take to bounce back, that's the question. And we don't have that, sometimes that luxury to make sure that that third leg of our stool can handle to be wobbly for 10, 15, 20 years. We all remember back when COVID hit, back in the early part of 2020, and we saw the stock market lost 30% of its value just in a 3 or 4 week period. So you can lose 30% of your retirement income in 2 weeks. This is a screenshot of my phone that I took back at the beginning of the year. I just checked it again today. Some we've improved slightly on, some were lower than, so you just don't know what's going to happen in there and what world events could impact these things. We don't know what the impact of inflation is going to be. The interest rates keep rising. Is that going to put us in a recession? Things like that as well. We're just not quite sure. So as we age, you hear this concept of called the rule of 100. And this is just, and I'm not a financial advisor, but you hear this concept that you should take your age, subtract it from 100, whatever that amount that you have there. So if you're 70, you've got 30%, 30 left, have that amount in stocks and 70% in something protected that you can't lose money in. Again, your situation may vary, but as we age, we've got to get a little bit more protective of our monies. And I had a coworker say, it's kind of like going to a casino. You've been on a good blackjack table run for several years. And if you're like me, you have a good run and then you start to lose a little bit. What I tend to do is I say, I need to play some more to catch back up. When really what I should do is probably take my winnings off the table and go to bed. Cash out with a little bit what I have, take my winnings and go to bed and not try to make it up and lose some more that way. As I mentioned, our savings rates are not real great right now. CD rates are pretty low, ticking up just a little bit. Inflation continues to go up. Food and energy prices, the highest cost they've been in 40 years, although oil prices are going down a little bit now. So like I said, you can't throw it in the bank and expect to keep up with inflation. So you've got to have this balance somewhere out there. And one of those possible solutions to overexposure to the stock market is to have some type of tax-deferred asset protection plan that guarantees you never run out of money. And people think, well, why do I have to worry about this? Well, because most of us, while we're not afraid of passing away, not afraid of dying, we're afraid of outliving our money. And there was a pretty good group of you that said, I'm kind of worried about outliving my money. And by having an asset protection plan that's tax deferred, it allows you to have a lifetime of income and safety, allows you to get competitive returns, potential upside in the market if and when it comes back, but there's no downside risk. You don't have to worry about looking at red on your phone every day because you're not going to lose money in this. So it protects you from that stock market risk that's out there. The one thing I like about the MRSPA tax deferred asset protection plan that's endorsed by them, there's no medical issues involved with it. There's no underwriting. Again, you don't have to worry about any losses in it. If the stock market goes up, your money goes up. Then you lock it in. If it goes down, nothing happens. You can put in monies that's qualified money, meaning it hasn't been taxed yet, or you can put in non-qualified money, meaning it's already been taxed and I have to worry about the growth, that type of thing in there. The thing that I love about it the most is it has available long-term care benefits built inside of the policy. This allows, in my situation, because my father's history of dementia, it's hard for me to qualify for a long-term care plan. And then I meet some people and say, you know what, I don't necessarily know if I want to put money in a plan that I may never use. This particular plan that's endorsed by your association allows you to withdraw money if you have a long-term care need without any type of penalty or any type of restrictions. And if I'm already starting to receive periodic payments out of the plan and myself or my wife needs long-term care, it will double those payments. So it really gives me peace of mind knowing that my wife and I are taken care of for long-term care. I don't have to be a burden on my kids. I can be taken care of how and where I want to. But if I don't have any needs like that and I pass away without ever having to use it, I've got this money that I can use for whatever I need for in retirement, and I'm not going to lose any money as well out there, because we've got to prepare for many, many more years of living. Studies show that once we reach age 65, the chances of us living to 90 is very significant. But during that 25-year period, you start to see the impacts of inflation. Things change in our life, our health changes, things like that. You may have a spouse that passes away. We're not able to do things as much as we could in the past. And so we've got to prepare for having those things. And sometimes having too much exposure to the stock market or not having a plan for our long-term care can really wreck our nest egg. And that's what your association has stepped up to partner with MRSPA to make sure we can cover that. So if you've got any questions, drop those into Q&A. I would love to see those and be glad to answer those for you. If you'd like information about what we've talked about today, you just simply take your smartphone, open up your camera feature on your smartphone, hover over that QR code, kind of like we've done with menus during the COVID period there, and a little form will pop up. You can simply select review my benefits, talk about the tax deferred asset protection plan, long-term care, whatever it is. And Joe and one of his team members will get back with you to explain that, how all that works. They'll review all of your benefits that you have with MRSPA and let you understand what the value of your membership, because first and foremost, being a member of your association is so crucial to protecting that valuable asset that you have in your pension plan. So if you've got any questions, feel free to drop that there. Drop a Q&A into chat if you want to. If you're on your iPad, if you're on a tablet or on your phone and you can't use the QR code, simply email me. There's my phone number, john.green, it's JON.green like the color at amba.info. And I'd be glad to get back with you and get you connected with someone who can help you in Maryland, that's licensed in Maryland, can answer those questions, that understands your pension plan inside and out, understands your medical plan inside and out. It can show you, here's where you have great coverage, here may be some gaps out there, things of that nature. So, all right, we've got a couple of questions that are rolling in here. Let's see if we can answer these. Daniel asks, are tax deferred plans subject to required minimum distributions after age 71? Daniel, that is a phenomenal question. When he's talking about required minimum distributions, once you reach a certain age, it used to be 70, federal government's kicked it up to 72, depending upon when you were born, you have to receive required minimum distributions out of all of your tax deferred plans. This plan would work the same exact way. The only difference, Daniel, is depending upon how many tax deferred plans that you have, you can choose to pull your required minimum distributions out of one plan as long as it satisfies the total amount for all your plans. So it doesn't have to all come from each plan, but yes, required minimum distributions even apply on these tax deferred plans, but you can decide which ones you want to pull out what the government says that you owe out of that. So if you've got a plan that's making you money, not losing you money, that you want to keep longer, you can decide to pull out money from other plans that maybe not be as advantageous or working well for you. The nice thing about this is the plan administrators as well as our representatives can help you decide that and help you walk through what's the best way to do that way. So super question. I would highly encourage you, because the tax laws have changed with required minimum distributions, get with an expert. I am not an expert. I am not a tax law expert by any stretch of the imagination, but the changes that have happened with required minimum distributions lately are better for retirees. And I'm hoping that the federal government will kick it back to 75, something like that as well, because it really can make a world of difference in trying to recoup some of this money, but also keeping more money in your pocket that you can live on. So super questions. So any other questions, drop those into Q&A. Would love to answer those questions for you as well. I'll come back to this QR code here in a moment. We've had several folks that have already starting to use that, and I appreciate that. Just want to remind you, just like I mentioned before, there's probably not anyone on this call today that does not know a retired educator or a soon-to-be retired educator that's not a member of MRSPA. Let them know about this educational series that Wanda and Phyllis have put together on your behalf. Let them know about the benefits of the association. If nothing, to protect that biggest asset in your pension plan is a reason to be a member of MRSPA. However, all the other stuff that comes with it and the ability to take care of those public servants, just like you were taken care of in your career, supporting public education, scholarships for the future, all those things. Lots of great stuff being done by your association. Tell your friends about this. I want to see us grow membership. Garrett and I want to get more and more members for your association and make you even stronger when it comes to cost of living adjustments, contributions toward medical plans, things like that. So please, please, please refer your friends, your coworkers, and future retirees as well. So, I'm going to leave you with this question. If you've got more, drop them into Q&A, but I'm going to stop recording in just a moment. How are you going to protect your nest egg? We know what the top 5 threats are. Taking care of an elderly parent. Maybe you, or maybe someone that's responsible for taking care of you, or you responsible for taking care of someone else. A boomerang kid moving back home with you, changing up the dynamics that way. A medical crisis, a spouse passing away without life insurance, and then having overexposure to the stock market and protecting yourself that way. So someone asked, this is another great question that popped in. Will RMDs affect your pension check amount? No, RMDs do not impact your pension in one way, shape, or form. Your pension is something that is done totally outside of. You pay taxes on your pension, but the way it's designed, it is not an RMD product. An RMD product or savings plan would be something that you put aside tax-free, and now it's time that the government says we want our share of that. The government knows with pension plans, you're getting periodic payments and you get your tax statements at the end of the year. They know how to handle that tax, but RMDs are not subject on your pension plan. However, one question that kind of tangentially falls in that, when you have your pension plan, that's an income source. Social Security is an income source. When you take out RMDs, that is another income source. Collectively, that could push you into higher tax brackets. So that could impact what you pay in taxes, but it won't impact anything in terms of your pension and how it's paid out to you in that way. So really good questions. I love these questions. Keep them coming. I'm going to stop recording here. And that way, if you need to go,